There's a plant that can produce 100 tons of biomass per acre without a single drop of fertilizer. No irrigation, no pesticides. Just plant it once and it'll keep growing for the next 20 years. Sounds impossible, right? Well, it's not. This plant exists. It's been documented by scientists. And up until 2001, you could walk into any garden center in America and buy it. Then the FDA stepped in. Today, you won't find it anywhere. So what happened? Keep watching and find out. The plant is called comfrey. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another herbal supplement story, hang with me here, because comfrey isn't some exotic rainforest species that only grows in one location. This thing grows like a weed. Actually, it grows better than a weed. It's practically indestructible. Cut it down and it grows back stronger. Freeze it and it survives the winter. Neglect it completely and it thrives anyway. It's the plant equivalent of that friend who always lands on their feet. But here's where it gets interesting. In the 1960s, a researcher documented comfrey producing 100 tons of material per acre, per year, without fertilizer. For context, that's more biomass than corn, wheat, or soybeans, with all their fancy industrial inputs. And comfrey does it by pulling nitrogen straight out of the air and mining minerals from deep underground with roots that punch down 10 feet into the soil. It's basically a biological fertilizer factory that runs on sunlight. Now, if this plant is so amazing, why isn't every farmer on Earth growing it? Why did the FDA essentially kill it? The answer isn't what you think. And the real story goes back way further than 2001. Way further than the 1960s. We're talking ancient Greece. The Greeks knew about comfrey. They called it symphytum, which translates roughly to growing together. They used it to heal broken bones, which is pretty wild considering they had no idea about the biochemistry. They just knew it worked. Fast forward to medieval Europe. And comfrey was everywhere. Monasteries grew it. Herbalists prescribed it. Farmers fed it to livestock because animals that ate comfrey gained weight faster and produced more milk. It was the wonder plant of its time. But then something changed. Actually, a lot of things changed. The Industrial Revolution happened. Agriculture became mechanized. Chemical fertilizers were invented. And suddenly, this plant that had sustained civilizations for thousands of years became inconvenient. You can't patent comfrey. You can't sell it in bags. You can't create a supply chain that requires farmers to buy new product every single season. It's a perennial. Plant it once, harvest it for decades. That's a terrible business model if you're in the fertilizer industry. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind to the 1800s. Ireland. The potato famine. Over 1 million people dead. Another million emigrated. It was a catastrophe. And here's the kicker. It didn't have to happen. In 1847, right in the middle of the famine, someone suggested growing comfrey. The plant was already known in Ireland. It grew there naturally. And unlike potatoes, comfrey doesn't get blight. It doesn't care about fungus or disease. It just grows. But the suggestion was ignored. Why? Because comfrey wasn't a cash crop. It wasn't what people were used to eating. And by the time anyone might have taken it seriously, the damage was done. A plant that could have prevented mass starvation sat on the sidelines because it didn't fit the economic model. Remember that pattern. It's going to come up again. Now let's jump to the 1900s. England. A guy named Henry Doubleday enters the picture. And this is where comfrey goes from historical curiosity to documented miracle plant. Doubleday wasn't a scientist. He was a Quaker and a naturalist who ran a small farm. He was obsessed with finding sustainable ways to feed people without destroying the land. And he became absolutely fixated on comfrey. Here's what Doubleday figured out. There are different varieties of comfrey. Some are good, some are great. And one, a hybrid he discovered, was extraordinary. He called it Bocking 14, after the town where he lived. And Bocking 14 is the variety that changes everything. Unlike other comfrey varieties, Bocking 14 doesn't produce viable seeds. That means it won't spread like a weed and take over your property. It stays where you plant it, but it grows like crazy. The leaves get massive, up to 2 feet long, 5, sometimes 6 times per year. It regrows from the root. It's like having a renewable resource in your backyard. Doubleday spent decades promoting Bocking 14. He wrote extensively about its potential, and he made one crucial observation that the fertilizer industry probably didn't love. Comfrey, he noted, could make chemical fertilizers obsolete. Let me explain why that's not just hippie optimism. It's actual biochemistry. Comfrey roots go deep. We're talking 10 feet down, sometimes more. Most crop plants have shallow roots. Vegetables, they're all hanging out in the top foot or two of soil. That's why they need fertilizer. The nutrients in that top layer get depleted. But comfrey? It's down there mining minerals from bedrock. Potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, all the stuff plants need. And then comfrey pulls those minerals up to the surface and stores them in its leaves. When you cut comfrey and use it as mulch, you're essentially moving deep earth minerals to the topsoil. For free. No trucks. No factories. No mining operations in some developing country. Just a plant doing what evolution designed it to do. And because comfrey is part of the borage family, it's also fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere. It's pulling nutrients from two directions, down from the earth and down from the sky. This is where it gets even better. Comfrey leaves break down fast. Like really fast. You can chop them up, toss them around your tomato plants, and within 2 weeks they've decomposed into black gold. The nutrient profile is insane. Some analyses show comfrey having higher concentrations of potassium than commercial fertilizers. And it's all in organic form, which means it releases slowly and doesn't leach into groundwater. Oh, and pests? Comfrey doesn't care. The leaves are covered in tiny hairs that make them unappealing to most insects. Disease? Hasn't met one. It can't shrug off. Drought? Those 10-foot roots laugh at your surface-level water shortages. Comfrey is basically the plant equivalent of a bunker built to survive the apocalypse. So naturally, by the 1960s, when researchers started actually measuring what comfrey could do, the numbers were bonkers. 100 tons per acre. Some studies showed even higher yields in ideal conditions. And this is without irrigation, without fertilizer, without pesticides, just the plant, the soil, and photosynthesis. For comparison, a good corn crop might produce 200 bushels per acre. That's about 11,000 pounds. Good alfalfa, which is considered a high-yield forage crop, might hit 6 to 8 tons per acre. Comfrey is producing 10 to 15 times more biomass than some of the most productive conventional crops. And you plant it once. It lasts for 20 years. Maybe more if you take care of it. This is the point in the story where you'd expect comfrey to take over the world. Every farmer should be planting it. Every gardener should have a patch in the corner of their yard. It should be as common as grass. But that's not what happened. Instead, comfrey quietly faded into obscurity. Agricultural researchers moved on to other projects. And most people forgot it existed. Why? 2 reasons. One obvious. One not so much. The obvious reason is industrial agriculture. By the mid-20th century, farming had fundamentally changed. It wasn't about sustainability or long-term soil health. It was about yield maximization using inputs you could buy. Fertilizer companies had products to sell. Seed companies had hybrids to market. Equipment manufacturers had tractors to move. You can't sell comfrey seeds because the good varieties don't make seeds. You can't sell comfrey fertilizer because the whole point is you don't need fertilizer. It's a solution that doesn't generate recurring revenue. And here's the thing about industrial agriculture. It's not designed to be independent. It's designed to create dependency. Farmers buy seeds every year. They buy fertilizer every season. They buy pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. The entire system is built on consumption. It makes you independent. And independence is bad for business. But the less obvious reason, the one that really killed comfrey, came in 2001. That's when the FDA dropped a warning about pyrrolizidine alkaloids. These are naturally occurring compounds found in comfrey. They can cause liver damage. The FDA's concern was about people consuming comfrey internally, either as tea or supplements, which, to be fair, is a legitimate concern if you're chugging comfrey tea by the gallon. But here's where it gets messy. The FDA warning was about internal consumption, not about growing comfrey as a fertilizer plant, not about using it in your garden. But the warning created panic. Nurseries stopped propagating it. And suddenly, a plant that had been widely available for decades became nearly impossible to find. Was the FDA warning justified? Sort of. Pyrrolizidine alkaloids are real. The liver damage is real. But let's add some context. You'd have to consume a lot of comfrey to cause problems. We're talking regular, sustained use over time, and the varieties people were using as garden plants, like Bocking 14, have lower alkaloid content than wild comfrey. Plus, nobody was telling people to eat it. The use case was always as a fertilizer and soil amendment. But the damage was done. The FDA warning gave the agricultural industry exactly what it needed: a reason to forget about comfrey. No major university was going to study it. No agricultural extension service was going to recommend it. And no seed company was going to promote it. Comfrey became the plant that must not be named. Except it's not extinct. Not even close. Because here's the beautiful thing about comfrey. Once it's planted, it doesn't go away. People who had it in their gardens in the 1980s and 1990s still have it today. It's still growing, still producing, still doing exactly what Henry Doubleday said it would do over a century ago. And a small but growing community of gardeners, permaculture enthusiasts, and homesteaders never stopped using it. These are the people who realize something important. The fertilizer industry doesn't want you to be independent. Think about it. The global fertilizer market is worth over $200 billion a year. That's billion with a BOA. And it's projected to keep growing. Why? Because the current agricultural system requires fertilizer. Crops deplete the soil. Fertilizer replenishes it. Harvest, deplete, fertilize, repeat. It's a perfect business model. For them. But what if you could break that cycle? What if you could grow food without buying fertilizer? What if you could improve your soil every year instead of depleting it? That's what comfrey offers. It's not just a plant. It's an exit strategy from the industrial agriculture system. Let me give you a practical example. Say you've got a vegetable garden, maybe 1,000 square feet. Pretty standard for a backyard. You plant a small patch of comfrey, maybe 10 plants. Each plant will give you 4 to 5 harvests per year. Each harvest might yield 2 to 3 pounds of leaves per plant. That's 100 pounds of comfrey leaves. And those leaves, when composted or used as mulch, will fertilize your entire garden. No bags of fertilizer, no trips to the garden center, no wondering what's actually in that synthetic mix you're dumping on your tomatoes. And it's not just vegetables. Fruit trees love comfrey. Blueberries, strawberries, they all respond incredibly well to comfrey mulch. Some orchardists plant comfrey in guilds around their trees. The tree provides partial shade, and both plants thrive. It's the kind of symbiotic relationship that nature figured out millions of years ago, and modern agriculture somehow forgot. But the benefits go deeper than just free fertilizer. Those deep roots break up compacted soil. When they die back in winter and regrow in spring, they create channels for water and air to penetrate. The organic matter from the leaves feeds soil microbes, which in turn make nutrients available to plants. It's a whole ecosystem in a single plant. There's also the speed factor. Chemical fertilizers give you a quick hit of nutrients. Fast growth? Sure. But it's like giving a plant an energy drink. You get the spike, then the crash. The nutrients become available as the leaves decompose. Your plants get a steady diet instead of a binge. And that means healthier plants, better disease resistance, and higher quality produce. Now, I know what you're thinking. If comfrey is so great, why isn't everyone growing it? Part of it is awareness. Most people have never heard of comfrey. It's not taught in schools. It's not promoted by the agricultural industry. And after the FDA warning, it basically disappeared from public consciousness. But it's also cultural. We've been conditioned to think that growing food requires inputs. Bags of stuff, products, technology. The idea that a plant could replace all of that seems too simple, too good to be true. But it's not too good to be true. It's just too good for business. The fertilizer industry doesn't want competition from a plant you can propagate for free. And that's the real reason comfrey faded away. Not because it doesn't work. Not because it's dangerous. But because it's too effective. It solves the problem too well. It makes an entire industry unnecessary. And that brings us back to where we started. Is comfrey illegal? Not exactly. The FDA warning was about internal consumption. You can still legally grow it. You can still use it in your garden. but good luck finding it. Most nurseries don't carry it. You won't see it at Home Depot or Lowe's. You have to know someone who has it and is willing to share root cuttings. Or you have to find one of the small specialized suppliers online who still propagate it. It's the kind of plant that exists in the underground, passed between gardeners like contraband, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. A plant that could revolutionize home food production, reduce dependence on chemical inputs, and improve soil health is basically hidden from the public. Not because it's harmful, but because it's too helpful. So what's the takeaway here? Comfrey isn't extinct. It's not gone. It's waiting. Waiting for people to rediscover what Henry Doubleday knew over 100 years ago. That plants can take care of themselves. That soil can regenerate. That you don't need a chemical company to grow food. You just need the right plant and the knowledge to use it. And maybe that's the most important part. Knowledge. On the assumption that you need their products to succeed. But gardeners who use Comfrey know better. They've seen what it can do. They've watched their gardens transform. They've grown food without spending a fortune on inputs. And they're not going back. If you want to find Comfrey, start asking around. Join gardening groups. Check permaculture forums. Someone in your area probably has it. And when you find it, plant it. Not in the middle of your garden. Because remember, it's a perennial, and it's there to stay. But somewhere you can harvest it easily. A corner. Along a fence line. Somewhere it can do its thing. Because here's the truth. The fertilizer industry doesn't want you to know. You don't need them. You never did. Nature already solved the fertilizer problem millions of years ago. Plants like Comfrey are proof. They're living evidence that sustainability isn't some future technology we're waiting to invent. It's already here. It's been here the whole time. We just forgot about it because it wasn't profitable to remember. Comfrey isn't just a plant. It's a reminder. A reminder that independence is possible. That you can opt out of the industrial agriculture system. That your garden can be a closed loop, regenerating itself year after year without external inputs. And that the solutions to our biggest problems are often simpler than we think. Sometimes they're just sitting there waiting to be rediscovered. A plant with leaves 2 feet long and roots that mine the earth. A plant that could replace all fertilizer forever, if we let it.